The wind slid cold fingers through the pines as Elias Dorn finished stacking the last row of firewood against his cabin wall. He paused, listening to the familiar hush of the mountains he had lived in for nearly a decade, an isolation chosen, not forced. The world below had grown noisy, impatient and small-minded, and Elias had grown tired of pretending to belong to it. Up here, the only things that demanded answers were the weather and the wilderness. But the quiet tonight felt disturbed. It began as a faint crunching on the gravel path, too slow and deliberate to be an animal. Elias straightened, every muscle braced with the instincts of a man who lived alone too long to ignore unexpected sounds. The figures emerged between the trees a moment later, an elderly couple, their silhouettes bent and weary, illuminated by the cabin's dim porch light. The man leaned heavily on a gnarled walking stick, his gray beard tangled like forgotten vines. The woman beside him dragged one foot, as if each step was a negotiation with pain. Their clothes looked old-fashioned, patched many times over yet oddly spotless, as if time touched them unevenly. "Evenin'," the old man rasped, his voice frayed but strangely steady. We can't walk anymore. Can we stay one night?" Elias didn't respond immediately. He had seen hikers, wanderers, even the occasional lost tourist stumble onto this mountain path. But none of them ever approached with this kind of silence surrounding them, like the forest itself was listening too closely. And none of them ever appeared at this hour. He forced his voice calm. "You're far from the trail. What are you doing up here?" The old woman lifted her face, and Elias noticed eyes too bright for her age, reflecting the porch light with an almost metallic sheen. "We lost our way. The mountain, it changed on us." Elias frowned. The mountain didn't change. People did. Still, he stepped aside and gestured to the cabin door. Hospitality wasn't optional out here. He knew too well what a night in the cold could do. The couple shuffled inside, their movements synchronized in an uncanny way that Elias couldn't quite name. The warmth of the fireplace seemed to settle them instantly. The old woman sighed with relief, the sound soft but oddly reverberant, as if her chest contained more space than it should. Elias tried not to stare. "Water?" he asked. "Please," the old man answered, lowering himself into a chair with surprising delicacy. Elias filled 2 cups from the kettle. The couple accepted them, though neither drank. Their fingers wrapped around the clay, as if merely holding warmth mattered more than consuming it. "What's your name?" Elias asked gently. The old man hesitated, his eyes flicking to the woman before answering. "Call me Haroon. And this is Mira." Odd names for locals. Older than old, almost archaic. "Haroon. Mira, where were you headed?" Myra's gaze drifted to the window, where darkness pressed against the glass. "Anywhere safe." Elias felt a chill, not of temperature, but intuition. Safe from what? The couple exchanged another look, a silent conversation flowing between them with fluid precision. Finally, Haroon spoke. "We've walked a long time," he said quietly. "Farther than you'd believe. But something caught up to us today." Elias leaned against the counter. "Caught up? Something that should not have found us," Mira whispered. "Not on this world." A pause stretched thin between them. Elias almost laughed, almost. But something about her tone flattened the impulse before it could form. He had lived alone long enough to sense sincerity, even in madness, and there was no madness in their voices. Only exhaustion. "You're saying someone's chasing you?" Elias asked, choosing the most rational interpretation available. "Not someone," Haroon corrected. "Something." The fire crackled, spitting sparks. Elias suddenly noticed a faint smell, like metal after lightning. It clung to their clothes. He had smelled it only once before, years ago, during a strange night hike when the sky had split open with a silent flash. He shook the memory away. Myra's posture stiffened as she turned toward the door. "It's moving again," she murmured. Elias hadn't heard anything. The forest outside seemed undisturbed. Yet Myra's expression tightened with absolute certainty. "Both of you need rest," Elias said cautiously. "Whatever's out there, it can wait until morning." Haroon's lips curved into a grateful but hollow smile. "Thank you, Elias." Elias froze mid-step. He hadn't told them his name. He was certain he hadn't. How did you? But Haroon was already closing his eyes, sinking deeper into the chair. Mira followed, her body relaxing in a strange, controlled manner, as if slipping into a practiced hibernation rather than sleep. Elias backed away slowly, his heartbeat loud in his ears. Something was deeply wrong. These weren't ordinary travelers. They weren't lost hikers. They weren't even frightened in the way humans were frightened. Their exhaustion was different. Ancient. Heavy with something unspoken. Elias reached for the rifle hanging by the door, not to threaten, but to reassure himself he still had control over the situation. His fingers brushed the wood when the sound finally came. A hum. Low, distant, vibrating through the earth like a buried engine awakening after centuries of rest. Myra's eyes snapped open. It found us. Elias froze, hand tightening around the rifle. Outside, the darkness shifted. Not wind. Not animals. Something else. Something searching. The old couple pushed themselves upright with surprising strength, their frailty falling away like a discarded disguise. Their backs straightened, their eyes ignited with that metallic glow, and their voices became one. Elias Dorn, they said, we need your help. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the windows. Elias swallowed hard. Whatever they were, whoever they were, his quiet mountain life was about to end forever. The hum outside pulsed like a heartbeat buried beneath the earth, steady and ancient, as if the mountain itself had awakened. Elias kept the rifle steady in his hands, though every instinct told him it would be useless. Haroon and Mira no longer looked like the feeble couple who had staggered up his path. Their posture was precise, their expressions sharpened by centuries instead of years. Even their breathing had changed, measured, synchronized, almost mechanical. What exactly is out there? Elias whispered, unwilling to raise his voice in case whatever hunted them was listening. Haroon stepped closer to the window, lifting a finger as if tracing invisible fractures in the glass. Not out there, he murmured. Underneath. Mira nodded. It has risen to the surface because it senses us. It always does. Elias felt his skin crawl. You said you were running from something. Something not from this world. Are you saying it's under my mountain? Mira met his gaze, and for the first time since arriving, her expression carried something like remorse. It has been under every mountain we've ever crossed. It burrows, it waits, and when it senses energy of our kind, it hunts. Elias tried to swallow the dread building in his throat. Your kind? Haroon turned from the window, his metallic eyes dimming slightly. We were not born here. Not on your earth. We came long ago, fleeing destruction. We hid among the peaks because mountains are harder for it to penetrate.
His voice faltered.
But it always learns. A deep tremor rolled through the cabin floor, subtle but undeniable. Elias felt it in his bones, like pressure shifting beneath bedrock. Then why come here? He demanded. Why climb this mountain if you knew it was just going to find you? We didn't climb, Mira answered gently. We fell. Elias stared at her.
Fell.
Our vessel crashed decades ago. We've been walking ever since, trying to stay ahead of it. But we are old now, older than your species remembers to measure. She pressed a hand to her chest, and Elias noticed faint lines of light beneath her skin, pulsing weakly. Each step costs more energy than the last. Haroon stepped forward. Which is why we came to you. Elias blinked. To me?
I'm nobody.
You're the only human on this mountain, Haroon said. And your cabin is built on the threshold of a chamber we sealed long before you were born. Elias's breath caught in his throat. What chamber? The one holding the creature, Mira whispered. It is waking, because our presence awakened it. But it cannot yet break the seal, not without help. Another hum rippled through the earth, stronger now, rattling the firewood stacked outside. Elias stepped toward the door, drawn by instinct and dread. The forest remained dark, but something about the darkness had changed. It pressed closer, heavy with intent. Haroon touched Elias's shoulder lightly, the gesture firm, yet strangely delicate. If you leave this cabin now, it will sense you. It will use you. Use me how? Elias asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted the answer. Your mind, Haroon said. Your memories. Your fears. It consumes thought the way fire consumes air. It has no shape of its own. It steals identity from whatever it touches. A shiver ran down Elias's spine. So, what do you need from me? If this thing hunts you, wouldn't helping you put me in danger? You were in danger the moment we crossed your threshold, Mira said, her voice soft but resolute. But you're also the only one who can stop it. Elias gripped his rifle harder.
How?
Haroon pointed to the floorboards near the hearth. There is a concealed passage beneath your cabin. We sealed it with our own energy, but the seal requires something we no longer possess. What's that? Elias asked. A living mind untouched by it, Mira answered. The hum deepened into a low, resonant boom, as though a massive creature shifted within the mountain's hidden arteries. Dust shook from the rafters, and a crack formed along the wall with an audible snap. Elias exhaled sharply. Okay, he muttered, though fear clawed at him. If I open this passage, what happens next? You do not open it alone, Haroon said. We only need your presence, your consciousness. The seal will respond to your thoughts. It will strengthen, not weaken. And what if it doesn't? Elias asked. Then, Haroon said calmly, the mountain collapses and everything beneath it climbs out. The cabin trembled again, longer this time, like an exhale from something with lungs the size of caverns. Elias felt the decision closing around him like a trap. He could refuse, order them out, pretend this was all some mountain-born nightmare. But the look in Haroon's eyes, ancient, tired, and unbearably sincere, stripped away excuses. Show me the passage, Elias said finally. Relief softened Myra's features, though only slightly. She moved toward the hearth, placing her palm on the wooden floor. Haroon did the same. Light flickered beneath their hands, faint but growing stronger, tracing patterns like constellations. Elias watched as the floorboards began to shift, sliding aside without a sound, revealing a narrow staircase carved from stone older than human memory. A pulse of cold air rushed upward, carrying scents of metal, earth, and something far more unsettling, like the breath of something that had never known sunlight. Haroon gestured toward the opening. Once we enter, there is no turning back. Elias tightened his grip on the rifle, took a breath that tasted like courage and fear in equal measure, and stepped toward the darkness. Behind him, the hum trembled into a deeper, hungrier sound. Whatever waited beneath the mountain had awakened. The staircase swallowed them in darkness, so absolute that even Elias's steady breaths seemed too loud for the narrow passage. Haroon descended first, his movements precise and unhurried despite his age. Mira followed, her faintly glowing skin casting thin blue ripples along the carved stone walls. Elias came last, gripping the rifle as though it would anchor him to something familiar. The hum grew stronger the deeper they went, vibrating through the soles of their feet. It wasn't merely sound. It was intent, a pressure of thought pushing against their minds like a tide. Elias felt it brushing the edges of his consciousness, curious and cold. Is it trying to read me? Yes, Mira answered. But it cannot yet reach your core. Stay aware. It will pry harder the closer we get. The steps ended abruptly, opening into a cavern so vast it seemed to stretch beyond the mountain itself. Columns of black stone rose like pillars in a forgotten cathedral, their surfaces carved with symbols Elias did not recognize. In the center was a circular platform embedded with concentric rings of metal, dull, ancient, and humming with quiet power. Beneath the platform, the earth pulsed. Haroon motioned toward the edge. The creature lies below this chamber, bound in layers of folded space. The seal weakened the moment we approached. Elias couldn't see the creature, but he felt it, like an eye pressed against a thin veil, straining to tear it open. A sudden tremor cracked through the cavern. Dust rained from above. Elias staggered, gripping the nearest pillar to steady himself. Does it know we're here? It has always known, Haroun said. But now it knows you. Before Elias could respond, a low whisper slithered through the chamber. It wasn't sound, it was thought. A direct injection into his mind. A voice without a tongue, smooth and unervingly gentle. You're small. You are breakable. I can make you more. Elias flinched. It's talking to me. It will tempt you, Mira warned. It tastes your fears and shapes them into promises. Another whisper, this one colder. They will use you. They brought you here to die. I can give you escape.
Strength. Choice.
Ignore it, Haroun said sharply. Elias clenched his jaw. The creature's presence made his thoughts blur, as though it sifted through them with indifferent fingers. Memories surfaced, his father's harsh silence, the loneliness of this mountain, the endless winters with no voice but his own. He felt the creature probing those wounds, feeding on them. Mira placed a trembling hand on his arm. You must anchor yourself. Think of something it cannot twist. Elias forced himself to inhale slowly. He pictured sunlight on the ridge, the early morning frost glowing like glass, the quiet peace that kept him here year after year. He held that image with both hands in his mind. The whispers recoiled, hissing like steam. Haroun stepped to the platform and pressed his palms against one of the metal rings. Elias, stand in the center. The seal will respond to your presence. Elias hesitated only a heartbeat before climbing onto the platform. It felt warm beneath his boots, as if the metal remembered its purpose. A thin light rose from the rings, coiling around his legs like smoke. The hum deepened. Mira and Haroun joined him, each placing a hand on his shoulders. Their touch steadied his breathing, though their bodies were trembling now, too old, too drained to contain the energy gathering beneath the platform. The creatures sensed their intent. You will break. Your mind will shatter. Let me in. Let me help you. You cannot contain this. Elias's vision warped as a surge of pressure struck him like a tidal wave. He staggered, fighting to stay upright. It's pushing inside. Haroun's grip tightened. Don't give it space. Mira spoke, through clenched teeth. Think of your mountain. Think of who you are without it. The creature snarled inside Elias's skull, a scraping, furious sound. The cavern shook violently, cracks webbing across the pillars. The seal's rings glowed brighter, responding to Elias's resistance. I will take you. I will wear you. No. Elias growled through the pain. You don't get to take anything from me. He drove the image of the ridge deeper into his mind. Sunlight, frost, silence, belonging. Not loneliness. Not isolation. His home. His choice. The creature screamed. A shockwave blasted through the chamber. The metal rings blazed like molten silver. Elias felt something rip free from his thoughts, like a talon being torn from his memory. The pressure vanished. For one breath, there was silence. Then the platform erupted with light, so white it swallowed everything. Elias collapsed to his knees, gasping. The whispers were gone. The hum faded. The cavern stilled. Mira dropped beside him, exhausted but smiling faintly. You held Elias. You strengthened the seal. Haroun placed a trembling hand over the glowing rings. And the creature is trapped once more, buried deeper than before. Elias forced himself to his feet, shaken but unbroken. Is it over? Haroun's expression darkened, not with fear, but with grim certainty.
For now.
But something this ancient never sleeps for long. A faint, distant rumble echoed from below, like a heartbeat retreating into the depths. Elias felt the pull of the mountain above them, and the promise of battles still waiting in the dark. The chamber groaned as though the mountain itself were waking, and Elias felt the vibrations rise through the platform, crawling up his spine like an icy hand. The seal they had strengthened only moments ago was cracking again, thin fractures opening in the glowing metal rings. Mira staggered backward, gripping her chest as a faint shimmer peeled off her skin like drifting ash. Haroun steadied her, but Elias saw the truth in his eyes. Whatever held their borrowed bodies together was failing. The hum rose, sharper now, almost frantic. From the depths below, the creature pressed harder, sensing weakness. Its thoughts slithered back into Elias's mind, no longer seductive, now ravenous. You are fragile. They cannot hold the gate. Give me the old ones.
Give me their minds.
Elias stepped forward, jaw clenched. You don't get them. Mira exhaled slowly, her voice thin. Elias, our time is ending. The form we carry cannot last any longer. Haroon nodded, his hands trembling as he touched the platform's edge. We came here for this moment, to pass the burden to someone who could hold it. But the seal requires one final anchor. Elias understood before they said the words. His chest tightened with something heavy and bitter. You mean someone has to stay? Mira smiled sorrowfully. Not someone. Us. The creature snarled, cracking the air with its rage.
No.
I want the young one. I want the whole of him. Elias felt its fury claw against his thoughts, but he pushed it out with every ounce of will. You don't get to choose. The cavern shook violently. A fissure ripped open across the platform, spilling blinding blue light. Haroon pulled Elias close, gripping him by the shoulders. Listen carefully. When we release what remains of our essence, the seal will reform. But you must climb. You must leave before the chamber collapses. Elias shook his head. You don't have to do this. Mira touched his face with a hand that shimmered like starlight. Elias, we were never meant to survive this world. We were meant to protect it. Before he could protest, they stepped onto the center ring. Their forms began to unravel, threads of luminous fabric peeling away into the air, rising like glowing dust. Their features dissolved, not painfully but peacefully, as though they were shedding borrowed skin to reveal something ancient beneath. Shapes of shifting light, not human, not bound by bone. The creature howled from below, a furious roar shaking every pillar. You cannot bind me again. You cannot. Mira and Haroon extended what remained of their hands, their voices now echoing as one. We can. The chamber erupted. Light surged upward, blasting through the cracks, wrapping the platform in a spiraling sphere of radiance. Elias stumbled backward, shielding his eyes as the brilliance swallowed the old couple entirely. The seal's rings fused, melting into a single unbroken circle. The fissures in the stone walls sealed shut as if stitched by invisible hands. The creature's voice disintegrated into a fading scream.
No, no.
I will wait. I will wait.
Then, silence.
Elias's breath shook in his chest. The air was warm now, no longer trembling with ancient malice. The hum had vanished completely. The seal held. But Mira and Haroon were gone. The mountain groaned softly, a tired exhale. Dust drifted from above, signaling the chamber's slow collapse. Elias forced his trembling legs to move. He climbed the steps, each one heavier than the last. By the time he reached the upper passage, the cavern behind him rumbled violently, sealing itself forever. Outside, dawn cracked over the ridge. The sky glowed pale gold, brushing the stone with gentle warmth. Elias stepped out into the fresh mountain air, letting the wind dry the tears he didn't realize had fallen. For the first time, the mountain felt different, emptier, yet somehow more alive. Protected. He looked back at the sealed entrance, hands trembling. Goodbye, he whispered. The breeze answered softly, carrying with it a faint shimmer of blue light, two drifting motes rising toward the morning sun before fading into the sky. Elias stood alone, but not broken. He felt the mountain's heartbeat beneath his feet, steady and strong. The creature was buried, the seal renewed, but its warning echoed faintly in his memory. I will wait. Elias squared his shoulders, facing the horizon. He knew life on the mountain would never be simple again, not after witnessing what slept beneath it. But he also knew he carried something now, resolve, purpose, and the memory of two beings who gave everything to protect a world that was not their own. The wind shifted, gentle as a promise. Elias began the long walk home,